I have sent somebody who told me that her 2-year-old was violent, threatened to kill people, take up tennis rackets and hitting other children in a daycare area. So I suggested that she test him, and she took him to Bustamante, and the doctor run her. The doctor said, "No, your child is not sick. Look how many sick children we have here, and you come in asking me about lead." And she told her to go. Right, and that is, she had to go somewhere else. She went to Mona Rehab, and the doctor there said to her that, this is what she told me, the doctor said, you know, so many children are having this sort of thing. Maybe something is in this lead thing. And he gave her the paper to have it tested. She went somewhere to test for the blood, and after that, she didn't hear from them for a long time. And then I don't know what happened after that, but she called me and told me that they said it was 8, which is not a cause for concern. Now, this child lives in Augustown. It's not a cause for concern, but they gave her no paper. There was nothing. So I didn't quite buy it. I really didn't quite buy it. But recently, another child of a friend of mine, who is also 3 years old, who was diagnosed now with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, this is a condition that lead causes in children. It's a very serious one too. They can't learn when they have that, and they're impulsive, they can't focus, their attention is really gone. So he was diagnosed with this. So I talked to him about it based on where he lived. He lived near to a main road where leaded gasoline would have been a factor. So he said spoke to his doctor, and his doctor ordered the test. He went to the lab and waited for the results. 4 weeks later, they called him and said they lost the sample. Poverty is different from poverty caused by lead. That's extreme hardship on top of poverty. You have to study what lead does to a child to really understand how awful this is. You know, that the doctors haven't considered it important enough to even have a place here in Jamaica to regularly test the children's blood for lead. And we're supposed to have a center that was donated by international agency, IAEA, that regulates nuclear waste across the world. They donated that center at the university that the professor is the director of, ICENS, International Center for Environmental and Nuclear Science. When you think about Kintyre, you hear about Kintyre? It's a community which is what I'm reading. I learned all of this within the last 2 years. Built on a lead mine, an abandoned lead mine. And the basic school is right in the middle of that lead mine. And for years and years, this is how it's still there. They have done remediation work to confine some of it, I understand. However, that is a place where people should not live. Human beings should not live on a lead mine. And these are the things that they tell the people up there. Wash your hands before you eat. These are little things that help, yes, but not on a burden like a lead mine. That's like taking out your sinking ship with a little teacup. Mona Commons, which is right across from the university where they have the center. Mona Commons is probably the most polluted. There was a person there who does this for a living. They are aware of this person. He has children, he has grandchildren. He has been doing it for 30 years. People know about this. And his children have been poisoned over and over, 5 times. The little children have been poisoned so bad that they have to come to the hospital. I don't know if they're alive now or not. And when you read how painful the treatment is, and to subject children to that, and not only subject them to that, but return them to the environment without doing anything. Marvelly has had situations with lead where where persons did the recycling of batteries, their children were severely poisoned, went to the hospital, same thing like Mona Commons, over and over again. A colleague of mine, someone who used to work in my dental practice, Dr. Fraser, was killed. He was a Maypen dentist, and weeks before he was killed, I saw him, and I said to him, you still, how things, how you feeling? And he's like, I said, the problem in Clarendon, right? And he's like, I said, you don't know the lead? And he's like, I said, you have to be careful because, you have a lot of people that are not so stable. Everywhere that you have industrial activity, bauxite lands have lead. His research found that there is lead in the lands, and then a lot of people live there. And also, I know personally of lead battery operations very close to Vere Technical High School, where there's lots of violence. And right there is this dental center. That's where I used to work. The mine is in Kintyre, but that is a natural land, something that just was natural to Jamaica. But that's not a place where humans should ever have a residence. People should never be allowed to live there, and if they live there now, they should be moved. That was in their thing. That isn't my opinion. Okay, you can hear my opinions when I say something should be done, blah, blah, blah. But most of what I'm saying is things I've read from their own writings. I always thought something was strange. This is why education is so important, because you have a responsibility to society to run it properly. When you're properly educated, this is your role, this is what you go to school for. So when a doctor doesn't do his job, it spoils everything. When the geologist, when this person, when all these professionals who are responsible, who said that educate me, let me help you, let me help my country, let me just contribute. It used to be the way to treat this problem, where you only recognize lead poisoning when the children come in sick. But that's long ago. But we're still doing that, and we're denying, that's part about it, we're denying that it's no longer acceptable to do that. I think when history looks back, this will be like a black mark, like one of those things that happened in Rwanda. That's what I think, because this is crazy that this could be happening since the 80s. And then you bring in cars on top of that with leaded gasoline that use over 100,000 batteries per year. You don't care where those batteries go. You know that they're dangerous. The literature is there. You have a center up there that studied it from God knows when. Why? To let what happen? It begs the question, why us? Why just ignore the children, blame the parents, blame the teachers, blame the police? They do something and they test their blood months later, find that it is lower, and okay. And the police see that these children have no fear. That's why it's so scary, because the part of your brain that controls fear is damaged. Your brain is extremely agitated because the lead is actually something in it. It's actually a metal dust, and the more you live in the area, the more it accumulates in your blood. And it's the worse it becomes in your brain, and it irritates you to do extreme things to counteract the irritation in your brain. Children absorb lead 5 to 10 times greater than an adult. Terrible. Children are born in this sort of poison, and then you do nothing to help them. We have United Nations treaties that we have signed to protect children's health. We ourselves have National Solid Waste Management, Public Health Nuisance Act. You see, these are things the scientists have done in North America. They have looked in the blood of the cadavers. Criminals who have been killed or who have died, they have checked their blood and found high amounts. That's how they have come up with the idea. With this, more than this theory that lead pretty much is a direct link. They can't say cause, but it's a direct link